Matthew, thank you very much for joining us. You are the editor for the Study Travel magazine.
Yes.
I guess then you are the person to come to find somebody who has their finger on the pulse and of the language travel industry. And I just wondered how the pulse feels at the moment. I mean, is the patient still alive, or?
Well, it's. I mean, we're in an unprecedented situation. There's no doubt about that. A lot of English language destinations around the world are completely closed. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, parts of America are open. Other states aren't. So probably, I think it's fair to say that the UK and maybe Malta are the most open destinations as things currently stand. Ireland has a very small sort of travel corridor list as things stand. Schools in Malta opened in the summer. They've probably been running at about 10% capacity through the summer, from what I understand from recent interviews with them. I heard from the British Council recently that about 70 UK schools have either reopened or are about to at the beginning of October, which is pretty small consider that English UK has around 400 accredited centres, a membership of around 400 schools. So we're on an unprecedented shutdown of the industry, really. But there are signs of life there. Certainly from the agency side, we hear that there's some pent up demand that students still want to travel. They're deferring rather than cancelling, maybe. The Brazilian Agency Association, Belter, did a survey recently which showed that students were quite happy to quarantine if that's what it was going to take to go ahead with their study abroad plans. So there's still some life there, but obviously a lot of factors are beyond our control at the moment.
Yeah. So obviously many schools have moved into online teaching, and I guess the question that we have really is: are students, do you feel, happy to stick with online teaching, given that they can learn in the comfort of their own home? They don't have to get on a plane. It's a lot cheaper, and so on. Do you think that's going to long-term affect the industry?
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, what we're looking at here, the language travel industry is really a niche sector within the wider language learning industry. Options of online learning have been there. They're obviously cheaper than going to study abroad. I mean, probably, Chris, every student that you've received in the last 15 years or whatever had the option to study a language online instead, but they didn't. They came to you. And there are many reasons why students do that, and why we sort of believe in this sector, and that it's the most effective way to learn a language and get a cultural experience at the same time. So obviously an element of students that may have gone abroad might be tempted, but I think that's a short-term measure. We may see a lot more sort of blended learning options, that they do part of the course, and that schools kind of bookend courses and sort of utilize the technology that they now have. But I think there will remain a sort of core demand of study abroad.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the focus of our TEDx conference is to try to find ways for UK English language teaching to reduce its carbon footprint. And clearly, travelling by planes to the UK has an impact on that, is a fairly major impact.
Sure.
Have you noticed any trends from your point of view, either among agents or among parents or pupils themselves, some kind of reluctance to travel? Can you discern any bearing on the industry from that?
Not really. Obviously any other impacts in this current year will be impossible to separate from COVID-19. I think the English language, the study abroad English language teaching industry has been relatively stable for a number of years. It's at the end of every year we sort of try and compile all of the data from the major destinations around the world, and the overall market is it's dipped a little in the last 5 years, but we're not talking wild oscillations here. It's fairly flat. Of course 2020 is going to be a very different picture, but we don't really see a huge reduction. So from that sort of macro level, it's difficult to see that. Certainly there's a bit of interest in this from the agency sector. I mean, you have ESL, which is certainly one of the largest language travel agencies in Europe, if not the largest. They launched an action plan in 2008 with the Eco2 initiative, and we've written about that in the magazine with interviews with them. And they launched a self-assessment tool that schools could use to sort of look at the carbon footprint. They've been offering, they offer sort of offsetting options for students. So it's been there on the agency side. At the end of the day, both the agents and the schools rely on travel as part of the as part of the industry. But certainly when we did an article last year about wider corporate social responsibility, which you yourself contributed to, Chris. And some of the agents that we spoke to for that said, they're certainly Europeans, their students are young learners. This is only going to get more prominent, so it's something that they have to be very aware of. Most agencies work with lots of schools, and if they get a student that says, well, actually I'm worried about certain green issues, then they'll say, oh well, okay, well I can narrow down my portfolio to these schools that I know are doing these initiatives. I think it will probably grow like that. As yet, I mean, ESL themselves said that relatively few students are actually sort of looking at the offsetting option and so on. So it doesn't seem to have dampened demand as yet, but it's something that the sector will need to address, I think.
Yeah, okay, interesting. I guess what we don't know is how many students are not traveling as a result of their environmental consciousness.
Yes, indeed, yeah. But we know that a roughly approximate number are traveling each year. So I don't think there's been any a sort of major dent in that side of things.
Sure. So if we just go back for a moment to the idea that a lot of students, a lot of children, adults, I guess as well, now have experience of online learning. Given that they can possibly get the nuts and bolts of their English language education from online learning, is that changing what parents or students are looking for when they come to the UK? Is it more than just an effort to improve their English?
I think so. I think it's. I think they come for more than that. I'm sure, and for the sort of cultural experience. And I think what we have seen with the online learning certainly is, I'm sort of filtering this through the agency business here. So how many students that language schools have picked up sort of directly through promoting online learning, I couldn't be sure, but we did a survey of agencies to see whether they were promoting the online courses, whether they were selling or not. Most of them were promoting them, but sales were probably something like around sort of 10% of what they might expect to have sold in actual study abroad programs. But the programs that were selling better online were more focused things like exam IELTS preparation, or exam preparation. Might be a different exam in a different country, but academic preparation. So career focused or education focused outcomes, and perhaps you're doing an academic program because you are starting a degree this month. So, well, okay, ideally I would have gone to the UK to study this, but that option's been taken away from me. But I need that IELTS score before I start university in October, so I'm going to have to do it online. There certainly seemed to be some of that. So the more sort of outcome focused programs did seem to be selling better as an online product. I mean, a vested interest here that I work for an organization that does agency conferences. We have gone online with those this year. Obviously we had to, but we've added a number of sort of mini online conferences, and obviously it's not just ourselves, our competitors and associations, and have done online events. I think we've all been pleasantly surprised by how well they went, and the enthusiasm for them and the take up. And again, that gives us an option going forward to perhaps reduce the amount of sort of marketing trips that need to take place. Certainly as we sort of tentatively step back into what we hope will be a normal world. So that's another area, and just sort of keeping those connections going online. We've all learned how to do these Zoom calls that we're doing now, and you know, I didn't know what it was a year ago, and exactly. Here we are. So so there are sort of ways that that schools and agencies can connect, stay connected, meet new agencies through these formats, and it may be that sort of schools do less fairs and things around the world. Maybe some of that will stray into the virtual environment. Let their agents do the in-country marketing for them as their representatives in those countries, and sort of cut down on the events where they sort of meet face to face, and sort of supplement that with online things. So there are things happening now that may sort of continue, and at the same time help us to reduce our carbon footprint as an industry.
Great. Well, look, Matthew, thank you very much. What you said will I'm sure be of great interest to our audience. So I'll let you get back to your day job now, and good luck with all of that. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris. I look forward to the conference, and best of luck with everything else.